All eyes will be on Kyle McCord and Devin Brown during the offseason quarterback competition, and Ryan Day hopes one of them emerges as QB1 during spring practice.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Buckeye fans? Welcome back to another episode of Locked On Buckeyes, part of Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. It is Thursday, February 2nd in the year 2023, and today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. During this episode, we will discuss one thing Brian Hartline will be doing for the very first time this spring and how many players will miss spring practice due to injury. But before we get to any of that, my eyes, your eyes, the eyes of all the Buckeye haters will be fixated on the QB competition in Columbus as Kyle McCord and Devin Brown will be battling it out to see who will be QB1 for the Ohio State Buckeyes. This competition is going to be a fun one to watch, and it might be closer than a lot of people think. Two talented quarterbacks. One guy's been at Ohio State for 2 years. One guy's been at Ohio State. He's in the midst of his first year. Just completed his first season. One guy has started a game at Ohio State in McCord. The other guy has not started a game. Both guys didn't get much run this year in the mop-up duty games that they played in. And so their playing experience is limited, which makes this competition interesting because we don't know much about them because they've barely been on the field. In the practices, in the film room, in the workouts, the teammates of these two young men, Kyle McCord and Devin Brown, they're getting to see a side of them that says, oh, they have the capabilities, they have the skill set, they have the mindset, they have the leadership qualities that it takes to be QB1 at Ohio State. McCord has a prior connection with wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., something that dates back at least to their high school days when they played football over there in Pennsylvania. So that's that connection. Two different skill sets, and Ryan Day understands that. And Ryan Day understands the timing and the ability to name QB1 as early as possible helps your team be more successful at the beginning of the season. Ryan Day hopes to name a starting quarterback by the end of spring practice. And I love that. I love that thought. It gives your team, gives the starting offense, gives the starting center, gives everybody involved more familiarity, more time with QB1 so that in the offseason, in the summer, when you're not practicing with the team, these guys can do things and know, hey, this is what we're doing. Here's how you want to run things. Let's make sure we're on the same page so that on 3rd and 8, on our own 28, with 4 minutes to go in the game, we are on the same page, clicking and going right down the field. Here's what Ryan Day had to say in a presser just a day ago about this very topic. Quote, I don't know where we'll be. I hope that one of them emerges and we can name a starter. I really do. Because I think the way that our dynamic is, I think it'd be great for our program to be able to do that. There were times in the past when I didn't see that happening. I'm hoping that can happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But some vision on who the starter is coming out of the spring would be nice. So hoping that one of them emerges here in these 15 practices, end quote. I like that mindset. And honestly, I think going back the last QB competition, I believe Stroud was named QB1 with less than 2 weeks to go to the first game of the season going into the 2021 college football season. So you see a little bit of a difference here. This may also be wisdom from Ryan Day, from experience. You don't want to be 2 weeks before the first game of the season and not know who QB1 is, or if you know, have it not be announced. You want to make sure that it's announced and everyone knows it. Why? So that you guys can better prepare for the first game. Because if you're 5 months out and don't know who your starter is, that's a whole lot different than if you are 2 months out, or if you are 1 month out, or if you are 1 week out. It's different. The earlier you know, the better. But this also may put a little pressure on one of the two quarterbacks, McCord or Brown. Lincoln Kienholz, a true freshman quarterback that's going to be an incoming freshman, a summer enrollee, is not going to be in this competition. Now, if he was an early enrollee, and he was on campus now, he would have to wow everybody. I mean, everybody. Quickly lose your black stripe, have a great grasp of the playbook and understanding of the playbook, and also be physically ready to play D1 football, high-level D1 football at The Ohio State University quickly. It's not likely that if he were an early enrollee that he would start. But I just want to get that out there once again. Like someone's going to be out there in the YouTube comments. Jay, you said McCord. Jay, you said Devin Brown. What about Kienholz? He's not here. He's not going to be here in the spring. So he knows when he comes in the summer, he's not going to be up to start, have a chance to start, which that's expected anyway. But for these quarterbacks, you heard Ryan Day. I'm sure that wasn't anything new when it came out via the presser. That wasn't anything new that they had not heard before. I'm sure they knew, hey, Ryan Day's trying to name one of us a starter. We better bring everything we got. We better bring our A game every single day. We better hit those weights and those sprints and those and mat drills and whatever we got to do in the workouts. Bring our A game. We in the film room. Bring our A game and be ready to be coachable. Like, it's horrible for someone to be like, man, I should be QB1, but one thing you're not is coachable. Be ready to be coachable and be ready to be coached at the drop of a hat. Be ready for it. It's coming. This is a big deal. It doesn't get much better than being a starting quarterback at Ohio State. And Ryan Day, and I hope he's able to name a starting quarterback at Ohio State at the end of spring practice. During spring practice, Brian Hartline will be doing something for the very first time. What is it? We'll discuss that next right here on Locked On Buckeyes. This episode is brought to us by FanDuel Sportsbook. This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America. FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. Download FanDuel now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. Best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/LockedOn to claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Locked On is at the Senior Bowl. That is correct. Locked On is at the Senior Bowl. Get inside analysis from the host that covered the NFL's next generation in college and find out which NFL draft boards these players will be climbing. All in one location. Subscribe to Locked On NFL Draft for nightly live shows from the Senior Bowl on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have missed a live show, go back to the YouTube channel and check it out. So we just discussed the quarterback competition that's going to be happening it's happening now, but that but will ramp up on March 7th when spring practice begins and will probably be announced. The QB1 will probably be announced sometime shortly after April 15th, the date of the spring game. Well, during spring practice, Brian Hartline will be doing something for the very first time. This might not be something that he's going to do in the season, but it is something that could be something he does during the season. So why not practice it right now? Brian Hartline, let me get this correct. Let me make sure I got it correct. I think I do. Brian Hartline will be calling offensive plays during spring practice. Remember in the offseason, well, not offseason, I believe it was one of the first shows of the year, actually. Kirk Herbstreit, we talked about Kirk Herbstreit, and how he said and stated that during a production meeting, Ryan Day told him that Ryan Day might not call plays in 2023. People said, oh, Ryan Day, you did a phenomenal job. Ryan Day, you didn't do a great job consistently. Ryan Day, you called the game of your life against Georgia in the Peach Bowl. Keep doing it. Bring that same intensity every single game in the regular season and just see what the offense does. But then I had this thought. It would free Ryan Day up so much if he was not calling plays consistently. And I do think Ryan Day thought, I don't think Ryan Day would have let that out to Kirk Herbstreit. I've heard that Austin Ward had heard some of the same things Kirk Herbstreit did. Austin Ward of Rivals covers Ohio State football for Rivals.com. He had heard some of the same things. Day does not make that type of statement or think about that without already thinking maybe the person that's going to call plays in the future is already here, or knowing who that person might be. I don't know if he already knew at that time it was going to be Brian Hartline or it could be him, but I think there's a good chance that he did. And this is the perfect time to do so. Why? Spring practice. This isn't like fall camp where you're trying to prepare for the season. Final preparation for the season where you got practices and it's hot and it's practice and the sun's baking on you and you're grinding. No, this is the time where you can work on things, especially if you're a coach. James Laurinaitis will be out there working on things and getting better as a coach. Brian Hartline will be getting better as a coach of the receivers and coaching the entire offense for the very first time. This is the perfect time for him to call plays to see if it's something that is in his future in the fall. Here is a quote in regards to from Ryan Day in regards to why him not calling plays could free him up and allow him to better manage his time during the season. Quote, I think when you, year after year, you sit down and you evaluate everything in the program and certainly evaluate where college football is and demands of the job the way it is now as opposed to 2 years ago and 4 years ago, I have to look at time management. I think that during the offseason, no problem at all. Beginning of the season, pretty good. As you get to the middle of the season, end of the season, I feel like there's times I have to manage my time a little bit better and make sure that as the head coach, there's enough presence going around the building late in the season. And so trying to figure out how to best remedy that. Just making sure that I'm evaluating myself as a head coach the right way. And there's a lot of different things that are changing on a daily basis. And so whether that's giving up the play calling and letting Brian do it or not, we'll decide that here in the next few months, probably. But just trying to figure out how to do a better job of that, end quote. Ryan Day sounds like he's a really smart man. Like, we already know Ryan Day's smart. We already know Ryan Day is one of the best coaches in the country, the best coach in the Big Ten. Is there a coach out there in the Big Ten that's better than him? That's up for debate. I have my reasons for, maybe my reasons against. But I do think Ryan Day is one of the better coaches in the entire country. And Ryan Day's understanding, that time management thing, if you better manage your time and you realize that the demands that puts on you as a head coach to prepare the offense prepare and wants to film, more film, more film, more film while preparing to call the plays, if you dial that back a bit and you're able to do a better job of overseeing the entire operation and entire program, that's going to help you be a better coach and ultimately be a better person for the Ohio State football program. And this is the perfect time to allow a first-time play caller to get their feet wet. Why? There are quite a few months in between the 15 spring practices and the start of the Buckeye season in the beginning of September. And so I do think this is a great move for him. I think it's wise, and I would love to see what Brian Hartline does. Now, here's my thought about Brian Hartline calling plays. During the spring game, I think all the coaches are going to be down on the field. Some might be up top in the booth, but I believe all the coaches are going to be down on the field. Now, let's just say that Brian Hartline is the person that calls plays in the fall in the regular season. Will Hartline be on the sideline calling plays, or will he be up top in the box calling plays? And I wonder that because how does that impact the relationship that he has with the receivers, from Marvin Harrison Jr. to Emeka Egbuka to Julian Fleming to Jaden Ballard to Xavier Johnson, Brandon Ennis, Cardinal Tate, Noah Rogers, Bryson Rogers. I know all four of the latter players I mentioned will not play, but if they get some run, how is that going to affect them? Because I do believe Brian Hartline has always been on the sidelines, never been up top. So how is that going to affect the in-game adjustments and coaching moments that he normally has on the sidelines? How is that going to affect those types of things? I think he'll be fine. I think everything going on will be just fine. But that's one of those TBD, to be determined type of things. I just don't know, man. Think about it. You're a coach that's always on the sidelines, and now for the very first time, you could be way, way, way up in the sky. Man, that's going to be different. Not just for your viewing pleasure and from your vantage point, also for just coaching up your guys. Not just your guys' position, the offense. It's going to be different. I like the thought of Brian Hartline potentially calling plays in the spring, and I hope it works out. And I kind of hope he is a guy that calls plays for the Buckeyes in the fall, because I think he will do a phenomenal job if that is what Ryan Day wants for the team. Spring practice is the theme of the day, and there are numerous guys that won't be participating in spring practice. Who are they? Well, we'll discuss that next right here on Locked on Buckeyes. Sports betting is now legal in Ohio, and Locked On has a perfect show to help new and seasoned gamblers. Download and subscribe to Locked On Bets for daily picks and analysis wherever you get your fine podcasts. I bet you didn't think we were going to talk about absences during spring practice at the beginning of February, on the second day of February, because I didn't. I didn't at all. And then what comes up next? What's one of the things that I see while searching different topics? There will be 8 Buckeyes who will miss spring practice. 8. Now, some of these are from injuries from last season. Travion Henderson's injury being one of them, had all-season surgery. He will miss spring practice, and he's somebody that needs spring practice, but injuries come first. You got to heal up, and he was hurt last year, has to heal up. It has to happen. So not only him, Court Williams is going to miss. I think Mitchell Melton, he missed the season. He's out. Evan Pryor is still hurt. Jacob James is on the list. And then there are 3 players that started in 2022, most of the games in this season, that also missed spring practice. Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka, Tommy Eichenberg. First thought, Buddy almost has some serious injuries if y'all are missing spring practice, and it's being announced 2 months prior to the start of spring practice. Serious injuries. Because I know Tommy Eichenberg had his broken thumbs. Tommy Two Thumbs, as Gus Johnson called it. I know the receivers got some nicks and dings. I understand Travion Henderson. I know Evan Pryor, Mitchell Melton. I understand Court Williams. These guys have had injuries for a while. But what's going on? It's 2 months away, and you're missing the entire 15 practices now. You may say, Jay, Abuka doesn't need it. Fleming doesn't need it. Eichenberg doesn't need it. They all need practice. Everybody needs practice because nobody that I mentioned on that list of players that's going to be missing spring practice is a perfect player or close to being perfect. Henderson has things to work on. Eichenberg has things to work on. Abuka has things to work on. Fleming has things to work on. And we all know Mitchell Melton, Court Williams, Jacob James, Evan Pryor, all of them have things to work on, some more than others, but everybody has things to work on, which is why spring practice would be great for them now. I also understand the older players, some of them don't really want to be there for spring practice. Like, some of them say spring practice, but you know what? It's part of the process. It's part of the preparation process for the next season. You got the straight winter workouts. You got spring practice, 15 of those. You got a down period, put the pads back on in the fall, get ready for the season. This is important because this helps your body stay physically conditioned for football. Think about it. I remember when I played football, we didn't have spring practice like this. We had an after-school workout. Ain't nothing like what's going on right now with these high school athletes, but we had after-school workouts. What was it? It was basically conditioning, literally conditioning. I remember going through and going to the weight room where the football coach was, and we would go to a hallway. He would put mats down, blocking dummies. I would say mats. He would put blocking dummies down, and we could do high knees over them. You have to shuffle around them, shuffle forward, side, back, side, up, side, back, side, up, side, back. We had to shuffle all those things. We had to bear crawl around them. You had to use your hands to jump over them sideways. All these, it was conditioning. Conditioning is great, but there's nothing like keeping your body physically conditioned for football like playing football. There's no substitute for it. So you want to keep your body more ready and physically in condition for the sport. Spring practice helps you do that, and it does it very well. Now, you understand you're not going to be full-on tackling every single day. The intensity is going to be there, but you might not be hitting in the same way like you would during fall camp during certain portions. No, you want to have the physicality, you want to have the intensity, but don't take it overboard. Remember, it's a long off season. You want to keep your body as fresh, as few nicks and dings going into the season as possible. 8 players currently, and I do think, because it happens all the time, there could be 2 or 3 that could miss the start of spring practice. Not saying they're going to miss the entire thing, but could miss the start of spring practice. Injuries are unfortunate, but I want to be focused on looking to see how does McCord work with guys that are not going to be starting at receiver for Ohio State in the fall. Xavier Johnson, right there, there's your slot. Here's the junior on the outside. Who's your other outside receiver that's going to be with the starting offense? You got to wait and see when spring practice who steps up and fills that role. Guys, we're out of here on this Thursday. One more day. The plan for tomorrow's show is to have someone down at the Senior Bowl to come on the show with us to discuss what they have witnessed from DeJuan Jones and Ronnie Hickman during Senior Bowl practices. It's great. You have seen some clips about Ronnie Hickman. You've seen some clips of DeJuan Jones. We've heard about a 7 foot 5.5 inch wingspan. We have heard about I saw his measurement 6'8", 375 pounds, where his official Senior Bowl measurements. It's a mammoth human being. I look forward to getting a report about what he is doing and Ronnie Hickman is doing down in Mobile, Alabama. You can follow me on Twitter at jstevens07. You can also send all of your emails to jstevens317@gmail.com. Thanks for making Locked On Buckeyes your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything you need to know on and off the court. Plus, hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball is available on YouTube and wherever you get your fine podcasts.